Hello, people. How we doing today? Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, yes, sir. We can hear you.
All right. Great to see everyone. Great to see everyone hanging in there. Um, hmm. Just I guess some more persons to come in. There were about what, 10% of the class, maybe. All right. Any major thing happening? Any regarding studio?
Yes, sir. Great tomorrow.
Oh wow, crit is tomorrow. Damn. Okay. Which one are the crits? Interim?
Honestly, sir, I don't even know how to answer that one. Yes.
What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean?
Like, it's not interim, but it's not final. Like, so it's kind of
It was like a status update or something?
nah, more of like a stage crit or whatever.
Oh wow. Hold on. So the last time I talked to you, some people were just reaching working out their building, their plan, or just about to start the plan. So what you guys planning to show tomorrow for crit? Let me hear some feedback. What what is it that you're supposed to show? Is it just how far you've reached?
Well, hopefully plan section elevations and a model.
Wow, in 1 week?
More or less.
And it work fast, man. Okay. So is everybody else? Addison, you have stuff to show tomorrow? For crit? Is Addison here? He's coming? He's coming? He's coming? No? Where's everybody else? Janelle? I mean, Danielle? Where did I get Janelle from?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have your plan already? As in your floor plan?
Yes, sir. Yes, I have 80% of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, let me see a thumbs up of those who have, I don't know, their floor plan generally worked out, like 70% of it or more. Anybody have their floor plans? Guys? That's one. That's two Dega people. Okay. Well, so is there gonna be everyone coming to class today? Realistically, guys?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So based on the schedule, the latest schedule that I got from the university, we're having classes has been extended up until the classes end on the hold on, let me tell you. I think it was the 8th. I think it was the 8th. Right, so classes are gonna end on the 3rd of December. So what that means is that today, well, next week would be our last class. You have a crit, potentially an interim crit today. When is your final crit, guys?
It's the 12th.
Is it 12? All right, cool. We have 2 things left to cover. We could actually cover both of them in this class, right? One of them is really small, which is the animation for checkpoint 5, which is really simple to do. But the major thing that we need to cover is gonna be creating the floor plans in Revit, right? I figure you guys have to show plans tomorrow, right? So we have some sessions today that on our schedule we're supposed to cover creating the floor plans in Revit. So remember, you guys have, let me bring this thing up. Okay, let me. Okay, so if we head over to your, oh, okay, hold on, that is not unlocked for some reason. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you go to our class website, if you're there already, just hit refresh. And you should be able to see the, right, here we go. So if we click on the studio base project, so we already discussed this last class, right? We had a little introduction into Twinmotion, right? And we learned a little bit about doing the interior designs. You guys got some great tips on creating a kitchen. And this week, we are going to be going through how do we create it in Revit, right? We're going to create. So here is the deal, guys. For those of you that already have your plans, you can follow along in our tutorial today, right? If you already have your plans, that's great, perfect timing. You, at the end of the day, you can end up with your floor plan. Do you guys have to show interior elevations, by the way?
Not right now.
Just plans? Okay. All right. Do you guys have to show any kind of three-dimensional view? for the interim? Is everybody else?
Not necessarily, sir. Only probably for a mass model.
All right, cool. All right, so what we plan to do today is go through how do we do the plans and do interior renderings in Twinmotion. Now, as I said, next week is going to be our last class, right? Because classes end after that date. So we need to tackle this one today, regardless of the fact that you do have interim tomorrow. Now, this kind of stuff can help you to know how to get Revit to do certain things for your drawings. So we're gonna jump right into that. Right now. As per usual, persons who may not come today, you can check out the recording. But of course, you can't ask the recording questions. So I'm suggesting, guys, that just message the persons in your group, tell them that, look, you know, we're gonna go through how to create how to detail your Revit model. We're gonna just focus on the kitchen, but this applies to all aspects of Revit. So you guys have to show living, dining, all of that stuff. My demo with you guys, I'm only going to focus on the kitchen area and give you some tips on how you can represent that. All right. So you can, you guys are in a group, right? So can you just message your classmates, tell them that, hey, I won't give any class activities today to do in class. Instead, what I suggest is that you work on your studio. For those of you who are doing your plans in Revit, you can follow along and then try to mirror what I'm doing in your actual plans. That is how I think you will get the most out of today's class. All right, guys. So let's dive into that. All right, so I'm going to use an example. If you guys remember, I was using a apartment model for my example, and you guys are doing, by the way, it's confirmed now. Is it apartments or townhouses? What is it? Joel? Are you here, Joel?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Is it apartments or townhouses?
It's apartments, sir.
Okay, cool. Right. So perfect, because that is exactly what we will be doing. Okay, so we have an awesome tutorial today. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a plan and we're going to be focusing on primarily the kitchen area on this plan. So it's going to be a simple, small U-shaped kitchen. Now, what we're going to be doing is developing this in a BIM software. So we're going to generate floor plans, interior elevations,
And essentially we're going to generate a BIM model of the kitchen area. Now our plan is to design this kitchen in detail according to our design board. So we have here some ideas for what we want to do with the kitchen. So we're going to be taking ideas. For example, we like these lamps. That's going to be over the window. We're going to be taking this sink, this barn sink, which is pretty cool. We're going to be looking at the backsplash to be this marble tile, and we're going to be looking at the combination of colors, right? This kind of green, gold, along with this kind of light pink floor tile. And we'll be, for the ceiling, we like this idea of the tray ceiling. So all of this is going to form the basis for detailing our model. So back over to our BIM model. As you notice here, this BIM model is very basic, and the whole point of creating our kitchen in Revit is that we're able to generate our documentation and drawings, which is great. However, when it comes to detailing based on our design board, we're going to move into Sketchup. And this is where we're going to leverage the power of the Sketchup warehouse to get things like, you know, specific types of plugs, types of appliances, types of lamps. And we're going to grab the Revit model, take it into SketchUp, and in SketchUp we're going to update, we're going to replace some of the flat BIM objects with more detailed objects in SketchUp. So that's going to be really cool. That's where we're going to add the sink and all of these things, because most of our BIM model is a representation to give the overall dimensions of our kitchen. However, the kitchen is more than just the overall dimensions. We want to talk about things like specific lighting and specific types of appliances and these things. So after we detail our kitchen here, then we're going to take it over into Twinmotion, and this is where the magic happens. This is where we're going to be adding things like color, texture. So a lot of the color that you see in the design board, this is where we're going to add them. This is where we're going to add decor objects to really bring the place to life. And then we're also going to generate a 3D floor plan along with a few rendered images. So that's going to be our journey today, and it's going to be really cool. So let's get started.
All right. Okay. 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 One sec, guys. Let's get this show on the road.
Now, before I get started, one of my favorite things to do when using Revit is to switch over to dark mode. Notice that I have my tool set in a dark mode here, and to do that, all you need to do is to go into options, and then on the interface, this is where you can change it to dark mode. In my case, I have switched it to match my engine style. When you go under colors, this is where you will see for the canvas color, and you can see the canvas color is white, and the UI theme is set to use system settings, which my system is set to dark mode. Now, if I go to view here, I can also switch my canvas to dark mode. So I'm going to be using that for the most part, because we're not going to be producing drawings. We're going to be just concentrating on getting this to be populated with furniture. So let's get going. Okay.
All right. So I heard some of you have your plans ready. So we're going to dive into some details here. We'll determine how deep we go. We do need to cover two things today. We need to cover the modeling and we need to cover the rendering, because you guys will need that in order to complete what I need from you in computing, right? So I need you to finish your studio project so you can give me what I need to mark. All right, guys? All right. So if you have your model ready, or at least your plan ready, what I'm suggesting is you can just pause and follow along to at least to try to get a grasp on some of these things, just in case you're not as familiar with Revit per se, because this directly applies to what you guys need to do right now in Revit, right? Which is going to be producing your plans. Okay, so let's dive in. Oh, by the way, can you guys hear the volume okay? Is it too low or is it too high? Because I don't know if I turn it up here, if you hear it louder. Anyone can confirm? It good. All right, cool, Gavin. All right, so let's continue.
So one of the first things we're going to do is let's work on the kitchen area, since that's going to be the most tricky. So if we go to a plan view here, so I'm going to switch to my level 1 plan. That's this area that we want to concentrate on. Now, this is going to be where our kitchen is going to be. And if we look at our reference plan here, the idea is that we want to put our countertop roughly in this area. We're going to have our stove here. We're going to have our sink here. And we're going to have our kitchen here and our pantry in this rough spot. So that's the general layout that we're going to be using following this layout that we have here. All right. So the first thing we want to do is to import some cabinetry in this scene. And to do that, we're going to go to architecture, we're going to go to component, and we're going to go to load. Now, when this opens up, it should open up in the default location. Note, if you were using a metric scene, a metric template in Revit, it will default you to the metric folder. But sometimes it doesn't always do that. So as you can see here, this is defaulting me to the Imperial folder. So what you want to do is just check that first. If you are used to using metric systems and dimensions, you might want to go over to, go back up to libraries and then just choose the English and then US. So this is now the metric version.
All right, guys. I'm gonna put my headset to charge a little bit, so in case you ask a question, I might respond in the chat. Just give it 5 minutes to kind of charge it. Okay. All right, let's proceed.
So we're going to go over to casework, and this is where we see some cabinets here. So let's go to base cabinets. And what you can do here is switch your view over to thumbnails, and you should get an idea of what we want to do here. All right, great. So what we're going to do is place some base cabinets here. Let's grab this one. This one, as you can see, it has 2 drawers here. This one has no drawer. This is going to be the one perhaps for the sink. So let's grab that one first. Yeah, let's grab this one. And then we're going to choose where to put it. So we're going to put that one right here. If you press spacebar, you're able to rotate that. And we're going to drop that right there. Now from a plan view, you can see just the outline of the cabinet. But when we go to 3D view here, this is where you can get a better look on that cabinet. So that's going to be right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just dock this side by side. There we go. So that we can see the 3D and have the 2D here at the same time. All right, great. So now we need 2 corner units here and here. So we're going to head back into architecture, component, load family, and let's look for a corner unit, which we can grab this one here. Now, before we grab this one here, one important point to note, the metric and imperial templates, they don't exactly mirror each other. So for example, for the metric template, this is the only corner unit we have. But if we head back up to the libraries folder, and then we switch over to the Imperial US, and we're going to go over to casework, and let's go to base cabinets. Here we go. And if you notice, when you look here now, you see some other options for base cabinets. So the Imperial side has these angular corner base cabinets, while the metric side only has these. So we're going to use this one from the Imperial set. There we go. Doesn't matter which one you use, they're going to come out to be the same size. So there we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to just snap that into place. That's right there. All right, lovely. We're probably going to want these to line up. And in order to do that, we need to go in and change the dimensions. So let's make this side a little smaller. There we go. And let's adjust this. So I'm going to use the align tool. Okay, actually we can just drag it. All right, so we can see that this corner cabinet is a little large, and also it's not fully aligned with this cabinet here. So if we look in the properties, and then we go over to edit type, you can see where we can adjust the height and width and depth. Now the main reason for this, perhaps because we're using two different units, one is metric, one is imperial, so that's why you will see a bit of a mismatch. If you don't want to adjust this every time, you could just use everything from the imperial set. I tend to do that a lot. So let's go back to component, go to load family, and this time we're from the imperial set, we're going to load that cabinet with the one for the sink. There we go. And you notice now that you see they're aligned. So this was the metric version. We're going to delete that. And if we notice that if we work with the imperial cabinetry, all imperial, then everything will line up and we don't have to go into the edit type to change them. All right, so we're going to duplicate this on the other side. So we're going to use the mirror tool, and then I'm going to use the align tool to align this here. All right, so now what I want to do is I want this base cabinet to be the full width of this space that's right here. So I'm going to use my dimension tool and check out this space here. I can see that it's 917 millimeters. I am in a metric scene, even though I'm using imperial cabinetry. All right, so I'm going to go to edit type, and for my width, I'm going to type 917, and then I'm going to align this. All right, so there we go. We have our base cabinet so far. Now what we want to do is, right, so we want to just we're going to have another cabinet here where we'll have a countertop stove, or we could use an actual stove, a classical stove, whichever version. So let's try the classical stove. So we're going to need to insert another cabinet on this side. So we're going to go back to component, load family, and we're going to look for one of those cabinets, perhaps one of these base cabinets. We're going to load that in there. All right, now we need a oven. So we're going to go back. Go to load family, and for the oven we would find that so we're going to look for specialty equipment. Then we're going to look let's look under domestic dishwasher. We see an oven top, we see a gas stove that's right here. There are a couple options we can pick. Here we go. Here's a range, typical range. So we will grab that one. We're going to drop it right there. Then we're going to adjust this to close that up. So I'm going to use the dimension tool again. So that is 777. So I'm going to go into this edit type here, and I'm going to change the width 7, and I'm going to go to align. There we go. All right, now notice all of these are just the base cabinets, and this is kind of how they do things in reality. In reality, they create the base cabinets before creating the countertops. All right, so on this side we want to have a pantry on the left, beside the fridge. We also want to have a hood for the stove and maybe some corner cabinets. So let's start to put those in. Let's see if we can find our pantry. So I'm going to go back to component and go to load. Okay, so pantry would be back under casework, tall cabinets, and these are some different sizes. Would use this one. I'm going to rotate that. I'm going to put that here. That is what it looks like. All right, now we're going to want maybe some counter space here, and then we need the fridge. So I'm going to drag this down, and then I'm going to copy this, CO to copy, spacebar to rotate, and I'm going to drop this on this side like that. So this is what we're doing there now. Actually, I think I want to change this to a double door version. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back to base cabinets, and let's look for one that maybe a double cabinet. I could use a double cabinet with drawers, but this one is good. There we go. Now, because this is actually loaded, I don't have to actually move this. I can see that this is called base cabinet double door one drawer, and I think I want double two drawers. Let's see if that option is there. This is double with two drawers. That's the one that I want. Right. So what I can do is just go here and I can just swap this out for double with two drawers, and I'm just going to choose with this one so I can delete these. Here we go. Now I need to change the size of this one to match it again, so I'm going to go back in. It's a good practice to always duplicate, so I'm going to duplicate this one and call it 777 millimeters because that's the size of that I need on that side. So the width here is going to be all right. There you go. So now I have the double drawers right there, and I think I want to use this cabinet also over here. In reality, whenever you are actually creating this, it's a good idea to use to repeat the same cabinet in different locations because the construction is just much easier whenever you can, if the design permits. So I'm going to use about the same cabinet over this side, so you can see that I have this cabinet here, and then I want to have my refrigerator here. So I'm going to go back to component, load family. I'm going to go back. All right, so I'm going to head down to furniture, then kitchens, and there we go. This is a pretty typical fridge to drop this in. There we go. And that would be our refrigerator. That's right there. All right, now what we want to do is we want to have some upper cabinets now. So we're going to look for some wall cabinets. So we want this wall to stretch above the refrigerator. And we want to have some wall cabinets all along the wall here. So we're going to head back into components, go to load family, and this time we're going to head back to casework. And remember guys, you can also drag a shortcut over here. So I can actually drag casework here, so I can just go there next time and I don't have to go to each folder every time. All right, so we're gonna now look for wall cabinets, and there are some different ones. We're gonna grab this one here, this one upper cabinet with glass, choose okay, and that one has to be mounted to the wall. Notice that if I'm not hovering over a wall, you don't see it. So I'm going to drop that one right here, and you can see that's the base cabinet right there. Now, we're not going to worry too much about details like the fridge style. We can always, usually what we want to do in Revit is get a representation for the purpose of producing floor plans. So if you look at my floor plan now over here, you can see this is the main objective of Revit. We want to highlight the floor plan, and we want to have basic representation of the equipment. Now, if we want more custom equipment, like let's say we wanted a double door refrigerator and we don't have it in our library, we would have to go to another website in order to find that. So there are some cool websites out there. If you just Google Revit Family Library or Revit Family Catalog, you will find a bunch of websites there. One of the more open source websites that you can go to is going to be Revit City, and it's free to join. And I can just type fridge, that's here, and you will get more options for other fridge. So like we can take this large one here, and usually you see a little description here. You know, some of them will say things like, you tell you if it's parametric, that it means you can edit it. Fully parametric, side by side, stainless steel. You can adjust height, width, depth, dispenser height. This one seems pretty cool because it's fully parametric, so I'm going to just download that. Here it is. I'm going to just drag that over into Revit, and it's going to open up in my family editor. I'm going to just say load into, well, let me see, do I want this one? Maybe this one is a little tall. Let's look for some other options. And this is the great thing about Revit City. There usually so much options that are there. All right, so I'm going to go load into project and close this time. Okay, now once we have this fridge loaded, we're going to delete this one, and we're going to press spacebar to rotate it and just drop it in location. We're going to put the pantry right beside it. So this is what we have here. Make this a little bit wider. Right, so this is what we have there. Now this fridge does have a kind of a cover, upper cover, and we can actually change the height of that because this is a parametric refrigerator. So for example, if we click it and look in our edit type settings, notice that we can edit the width, the height, the cover height, that's this area here, right door width, bottom of dispenser, so we can actually adjust the height of the dispenser. So this is a pretty cool fridge. All right, so now we need to load our cabinets, or upper cabinets. So let's go back to component. We did already have it there, so we're just going to put it back. All right, now we need to kind of decide how we're going to do our design here. In some cases, you can have upper cabinets that are very deep, right? Depending on the depth of the refrigerator, and we can do that with this cabinet here. Same thing with the pantry. We can actually make the pantry be a little deeper. Well, what I would do here is, let's look at the width of our upper cabinet. Let's look at the depth. So right now, oops, let's put this back to the wall. Let's take the dimension here. So it's 600. So we can actually duplicate this and say this is going to be 600 mm. And then the depth, we're going to make that 6. So now this is the same depth that we have there. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make this pantry maybe taller, because ideally we would want to maybe have some space at the top of our refrigerator. So what we can do is adjust this top height here. If we go to edit type, right now the cover height is 256. We can make that 150. Let's see if that will work. Right, so now this is actually a little bit lower. Now we're not going to worry too much about this because we can change we can change out this fridge if we want. So if the type of fridge we want is one that doesn't have this at the top, we can always change that out later. What's important is that we need to select a height. So I'm going to work with this, with the height that we have. If I go to my view here, and I'm going to just draw a section line like this. I'm going to draw it this way. Notice I get a section marker here. I can click that and I can look at my section view. So right now, if I go to my dimension tool, this dimension is coming in at 2000. So let's say we want to use that as our height. So what we're going to do is let's align this here. And then we're also going to make the height of the tall cabinet be, we're going to let that be 2466. So we're going to go into the cabinet and we're going to say height. All right. So there we have the top cabinets there now. Now we need to have the other wall cabinets on this side and then have a corner cabinet that's going to be there as well. So let's go back to our plan view and we're going to go back to component and load. All right, so we're going to go back to casework. Remember we saved our folder here and go to wall cabinets. And okay, so this one is glass doors. This one is without the glass doors. So we can mix it up a bit. Let's take one with the glass doors first, and it has to be attached to a wall again. So we're going to attach this one here. There we go. And we're going to manipulate the dimensions of this, and it's good to do this in a section view. So we're going to align this there, and we want this height here, this height to be based on real world recommendations. If we take a look back on the mirror board, this is under the tips and guide sections. You will notice that we have some typical dimensions here, some guidelines for kitchens, and we can see that, you know, you want the height of this to be 500 millimeters. You know, we don't want it to be 500, if you can see here. Instead, we want it to be between 600 and 700, which is what is recommended here. So let's make this 700. So what I'm going to do is put a dimensions here, and you know, we can make it 750 just to be on the safe side. And now we're going to change our scale to a little bit smaller. That will make our text smaller. All right. And we know that we want the height of this to be 839. So we're going to go into edit type and duplicate this. And we're going to make this 839 height. All right. So 839. All right. There we go. We also want the width to be the width of this cabinet down here. So 780. So we want the width to be 780, and we're going to align it. Okay, we need to change the width of this one as well to be the width of the space for the fridge. So now in reality, we might want to let these spaces be wider, like to give it a like a 2-inch buffer around the fridge and the stove, right? So remember that. So this needs to be 908. So we're going to change this to width to be 908. In this case, we're just going to make it the exact dimension, so we're not going to worry too much about that buffer. All right, lovely. All right, so now we need to work with the corner unit. We want to put a single unit here and then the corner unit. So if we take a look in 3D, this is what is happening. All right, so let's go ahead and load a component, and we're going to load a corner unit, wall cabinet, for wall cabinet corner square, or we could load this angular version. Let's load the square version. Let's use a plan view to get it in, so we know we want it to be there. All right, and then we're going to need one in this space here. So let's go back to our section view. We already know that we want to align this like that. We already know that the height we want to be 839. Okay, this. Always a good idea to duplicate the default cabinet. There we go. Then we want to fill this space here. So we're going to need a single cabinet that needs to be 303. So we are going to load another one. Maybe we can load a non-glass version. Let's go to our plan view and we're going to load it right here. Let's go back to the section, align this. And we know that this needs to be 839 by 303. So 839 by 303. All right. There we go. So we pretty much have everything on this side. So we're not going to be putting anything where the windows are. And we're pretty much going to be putting this same thing on the other side. So we're just going to choose this option, which creates similar. So we can create a similar one on this side. Same thing for this. And we're going to leave a gap here. And we're going to put another glass unit here. I think we need to adjust this a little bit. Right, there we go. There we go. All right, we need to double check some of our measurements here just to make sure that this is accurate. So 7, right, our width needs to be 707. There we go. All right, and we also need to fix the depth. So we want it to be 305 in depth. That's good. And let's adjust this one now. And this needs to be 308 actually. 08. Let's rename this 308. And then we're gonna align this. All right. Okay, so on this side here, we want to put another cabinet over here. So on this side, we can get that there. All right, now we need to align the heights of everything. So we can actually use our section and we can flip it to this side. The elevation from level, which is 1626, needs to be the same here. There we go. And we're gonna align this to the wall and align this cabinet together like that. All right, same height for these guys here. Okay, now we need another cabinet here, perhaps with a hood below it. So we're gonna grab the same cabinet that we have over the fridge and place it on this side. But of course, we're gonna resize it. So from a plan view, we know that we want the depth of that cabinet to be 305. And we want the width to be 610. So we're going to duplicate this and say 305 by 610. That's what we're going to name it. 6. Then we're going to align that. And let's use our section view here. All right, looking good. Now we could have a microwave here and along with a hood. So let us look for that. We are almost there with our kitchen. Looking pretty good. All right. Okay, so what we need to do is to go back to Revit City, and I found a nice microwave here, and to download this one. All right. So I'm going to load this one into the project. All right, we're just going to drop it right there. Oh, there it is. It's actually right here. So we're going to align this right there. There we go. All right, now we're gonna try this one. Let's try the width, 607. Okay, good. And the height, 382. Let's make it a little smaller than 382. Maybe because we need space for the hood that's gonna be below it. Actually, no, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it at 382 height. 382. Let's see if that works. All right, great. Actually, I think these cabinets are possibly too high, so we might need to adjust that. But before we do, let's put our microwave in. Great. All right. Let's go from the plan view. Oh wow, the depth is quite big, so we need to change the depth to maybe to 305. Let's see if that works. Oh, this one, let's see if the arrow will still take us there. Okay, good, it still works. That's good. All right, so now our microwave fits in lovely, and we pretty much have our kitchen cabinetry. All we need now is the countertop and the sink. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to remove these dimensions here. All right, now for our countertop, we are going to need a component. So we're going to go to load, and we are going to go to, again, this time we go to casework and countertops. All right, so we have some options here. We have the L and we have the sink. So we need these two. So we're gonna load these two. Oh, we only can load one at a time. Okay, so let's load the L first. It's actually here. Let's align this properly. And we can actually adjust this in real time. So align. And for this side, we're gonna align it to here. And then we're gonna mirror this, mirror copy. We're gonna push it all the way to the back. There we go. In this case, we need to adjust this way. And then we're gonna need another counter. So we're gonna go back here, go to load family, typical countertop. And then we need to load the one with the sink. Here we have one with the sink. Put that in. We are gonna try and move this to the center. There we go. Now this height is a little different and the depth is a little different. So we need to change that. And the height of this here is height 914.4. So we need this to be the same height. There we go. That's good. We also need to adjust the length. So the depth is 635. So this depth needs to be 635. All right. There we go. All right. And if we look there, you can see that we have our kitchen pretty much completed. Okay, so now that we have our model complete, let's talk about how we can set up the sheets to have our drawings laid out for plan and our internal elevations. So what we want to do now is go to the plan view, and if you remember, we had drawn this section here which we are using to kind of help us out when we were creating the cupboards. Now we're not going to need this anymore, so we're going to delete that, and that's fine. And what we're going to do is create a sheet that we can have for our floor plan and interior elevations as well. So one of the first things we're going to do is we need to create some interior elevations, and we also need to create some sheets. So I'm going to scroll down here to where it says sheets, and I'm going to create a new sheet. And notice that I have a default sheet here. Now, if this is not the sheet that I want, I'm going to go to load, and I'm going to be taken back to my Revit library. I'm going to look under title blocks, under annotations, and then title blocks. And here you will see some different sheets here. So I am going to take the A2, A3, and this is the A4 vertical, maybe the A3, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to choose OK. All right, now this is an A3 sheet, and we can use the dimension line and draw a dimension here to get the idea of how big this is. This is in millimeters though. If I go here and for my dimensions, I go to edit type, and I can say show me alternate units below, and show my alternate units to be inches. I can use the inch symbol. It's okay. Right, so you see that this is 17 inches by 12. So this is 12 by 17. Now, regardless of whatever template you choose, it doesn't matter. If you did not have this particular template, it doesn't matter, because we're going to pretty much create our own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this template family, and I might want to keep some of these, but maybe not all of them. So I'm going to keep project name, and I'm going to keep sheet name and scale. So I'm going to keep all of these here. Probably the sheet name and drawing scale. Now everything else I'm pretty much going to delete, and I want to make this size here to be a letter size. So I know that in order to do that, I would want to let's go ahead and enable alternate units for this one as well.
Mic check. Mic. Okay, good. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm showing you here is that just to quickly set up a sheet, just to show you how you would place it on a sheet. But we're not going to be doing sheets in 3D modeling, right? We're going to be doing that actually next semester when we do BIM, right? But this is just in, so if you create a plan in Revit, you need to be able to print it. And the way that you print it, you have to put it on a sheet. So there is no escaping. So this, as I'm showing you, is just creating a blank sheet just for the purpose of printing a plan.
So I'm going to say alternate units below and show me inches. There we go. Right. So I know that I want to make this here 11 inches. So I'm going to say 11. And for this one here, I'm going to say 8.5 inches, 8.5 inches. So I know this will be the size of our letter size. Now I can just get rid of most of these lines, and I'm going to keep the project name, the sheet name, and the scale, and that's it. Let me delete these, and this is going to be my new sheet template. I'm going to save this family, so I'm going to go to save as family, and I'm going to save this one in the folder that I'm working from. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to create a folder on family, and I'm going to name it there, and I'm going to call it title block letter. So there you go. And I'm going to load this into my project. So now if I go to sheets here, I can click on this and change it from title block A3 to title block letter. All right, I'm going to delete these dimensions now. So now I know that this is letter size, which is great. So regardless of if you have the family, the title block family that I have, I never used it anyway. I just deleted it and created my own, right? So this is all we want to do for this one. Now, what we want to do is to drag the floor plan. So I'm going to expand floor plan and drag level 1 onto my sheet here. And you'll see that this is 1 in 100 scale. Now, what we want to do is we want it to be large enough just for our kitchen. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this window here, and we're going to change the scale to a bigger scale, maybe 1 in 25. There we go. Now the next thing we want to do is crop this down. So we're going to double click this, and we're going to show our crops here, and we're going to crop this down to just the kitchen. There we go. And oops, there we go. We're going to double click back out here, and then we're going to put this on our letter size sheet. We could probably crop it down some more. Let's crop it all the way to the wall, and let's leave that window intact. All right, that's great. We have that there. Next, what we want to do, maybe we want to turn off the crop, so we just have that if we want. All right, so we have one item on our sheet. Let's double click back on the outside to come back to our sheet. Now we want to get some interior elevations. So what we're going to do is go back to level 1, and notice that when we go back to level 1, it is cropped because we did crop it for the sheet. And we're going to go to view, and we're going to go to elevations, and then we're going to place this elevation view inside here. Now it doesn't matter which direction it turns, you just need to click and press escape. Now you have inserted a view, and notice that this is pointing this way, so this is giving me an elevation that way. What you have to do is you have to click on the circle, right? And that part is going to be important. You need to click on the circle and not the arrow, right? So clicking on the circle, we want to enable this elevation and enable that elevation. Now we don't want to enable this one because we just want to see these 3 elevations. Now once we enable them, if you look over here under elevations, you see that they are already created. So if I double click this, this is what that elevation looks like. Then we have this one, and then we have that one. So all these elevations are already created, right? Now what we're going to do, let's close these. We're going to go back to our sheet here, and let's drag the first elevation onto our sheet. Now right away we know that we just want this part of the elevation, so we're going to double click, turn on our crop on, and then we're going to crop this all the way down here, and Yeah, just to there, because we're showing internal elevation, so we don't need to show the wall section. So maybe just to here where we can see the top of the wall. Now we also have a title here. We can leave it right there. And how the title works, if you click on the image on the viewport, you will see the end of the title line comes up, and then you can just drag that. All right, and you can just position that on your sheet. Now, if this is too big, what you can do is make it smaller. I can click on this and I can make it 1 in 50. So there is one elevation, that's right there. I can choose if I want to have the title or not. If I click here, I can choose the viewport that says no title, and then it won't get any title, right? All right, now for the other views. So I want to do the same. I can drag this view out. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on it, change it to 1 in 50. And I'm going to adjust my boundaries. All right, there you go. And let me turn off the boundaries here. Let me do the same thing for this one. Let me turn the boundaries off. All right, and I'm also going to say no title for this one. And then my last elevation, I'm going to drag on here, which is going to be this one. Same thing again. I'm going to set that to be 50, and I'm going to adjust my boundaries again, say no title. All right, now I could probably put these two side by side, perhaps. And maybe what I want to do is disable the level. So I'm going to right click and choose hide. Same thing for here, hide, and same thing for here, like that. So there you go. Now I'm also going to change this canvas theme to the white, because this looks more like a drawing. All right, so that is pretty much it. So that is how I would get my internal elevations. And if you notice, your internal elevations is already telling you that elevation 2, 4, and 3 is located on sheet A101. All right, so this is good stuff, and I could go ahead and name this sheet. So I could call it Chin and Elevations. I could just call it Same Design. There we go. Now, the thing, what we must understand is that for doing your drawings in Revit, it's not about trying to detail exactly what these cupboards will look like. Revit gives you the ability to have your drawings laid out in a way that works for documentation. So at this point now, I can start to add things like dimensions and labels and all of that stuff. However, when you're doing a kitchen design, you might want to go in more detail. So for example, what type of handles are we using? What is the type of stove that we're using, the type of sink? Most of the furniture and the cupboards that we selected here are pretty generic, and that's the idea of using a BIM program. Now, the next stage will be adding those decorative details to the kitchen, but doing that in Revit would be mostly difficult, because Revit is really made for you to generate a construction documentation. The next layer that we'll add to this will be decoration and detailing.
All right, guys. So that was just a quick demo now of using Revit specifically in your case, which would be to lay out your plans. Now, I just laid out the kitchen area, but you guys would just do the same thing to lay out your living room, you know, bedroom and all of that. Any questions from anybody so far? Guys?
Is there like, do we take a little slow down, catch up maybe?
Can you take a?
Like slow down for us to like catch up a little bit.
Oh, well, well, sure, we have to balance it, because A, the video will be available, and B, we have one more thing to go through. So, you have any specific questions about you creating about what you want to know?
Nah, not really, sir.
It's just trying to follow. I know that I'm
Yeah.
going, yeah, I know that I'm going fast, but we have to kind of do that because we have to cover this in this class, right? You know, but remember the video will be there, so you can just pause and go through whenever you're ready. Basically 90% of what I did is basically 90% of what I did is load family, place the family, adjust the family. Load family, place family, adjust the family. Literally, if you realize, every single kitchen cabinet is a family that I went to component, load, and then place. And basically that's what I did over and over again. And that is the rhythm of Revit. You are gonna be just loading furniture, chairs, a host of stuff, right? But as I was saying a little while ago, Revit is mainly for representation and layout for the purpose of documentation. So I know that, for example, you might lay out your, I don't know, your apartment, and maybe you use a couch and you're like, no, but I don't like this couch. You know what I mean? I don't like how the back look. I don't like how the handles look. In Revit, what you mainly need to decide on is, okay, what style and dimension is the couch? Is it a 2-seater, a 1-seater, a 3-seater? Is it a L? It don't matter how the couch looks in plan, really, as long as it represents the type, the type of couch that you want in your design. Now, the other part of what we're going to do today is, okay, what about when you want this specific style couch? What about when we talk about interior design, which is not just representing the furniture, but actually choosing, you know, the design of it, the color of it, and all of those things. Now, what I'm suggesting that you guys do know is you would use a different program to do that. Because as you probably realize, Revit is a little, what's the word I would give it now? Stiff? You know what I mean? Because it's very precise. You know, like if you're choosing between something like a door handle, you know, load family, load door handle, going to the family editor, it's very cumbersome to do this kind of small details. Revit is really good with doing large stuff, so you know, but to change the small stuff, I would recommend that you go into a different software. So we're going to look at that example now, and we're going to use this kitchen example, but you guys can apply it to your, you know, wherever you are with your project, your entire project. All right. So we're going to dive into that and check that out. All right. Forget this one doesn't play. No, it doesn't. Yeah.
So if you take a look on our design board here, what we have done so far is we successfully created this kitchen here based on our original sketch. Now, we did that using Revit, which is great for documentation, which include doing the floor plans and the interior elevations. Now, in order to do detail designing, we're going to need to go into a different software that allows us to go deeper into the details. So after we achieve the general design, if we look back on our design board here, there are some specific things that we wanted to do. For example, we wanted to use specific lights here. We wanted to have this particular sink. We wanted to have specific handles, right? So we already selected the type of handles we want to have, and we wanted to represent the type of equipment. Notice that this is gold plated and the faucet has a particular style. The knobs have a particular style. The cupboards also have a particular look. So this is where you need to balance between using a program for drawing documentation and then a program for detail designing. Revit will give us the overall dimensions for our kitchen, but it won't give us the exact decor that we plan to use, the exact cupboards that we plan to use. Now we can use Revit to do that, but what we would recommend for this workflow is that we're going to now go into Sketchup in order to put in some of these special decorations that we have for our kitchen. After we do that, then we're going to take that into Twinmotion, and then our renderings will look quite nice because we would have added all of those details from Sketchup. So let's go ahead and jump into Sketchup so we can start adding some of these details from our Revit model. Now back into Revit, what we plan to do here is we're going to export this as an IFC, and that's how we're going to take it into SketchUp. So we're going to go to File, Export IFC, and we'll get this dialog box that comes up. Now we can leave pretty much everything at default. We're just going to browse to choose where we want to save this file. So we're going to save it in IFC exports, and we're going to call it Interior Project 06, and I'm going to click Save and choose Export. Great. Now once you do that, the IFC file is there, and SketchUp can read IFC files pretty well. So what we're going to do now is jump into SketchUp. Okay, so once we open SketchUp, we're going to get presented with the welcome screen. Now this that I'm using is going to be SketchUp Pro, right? And when we look at the different units that we can use, we're going to choose, we can choose millimeters to be consistent with our model, and it's going to open up like that. Now your SketchUp might open differently. Notice I have all of my tools here because I've gone into view toolbars and I've enabled a large tool set, right? All right, so the first thing we want to do is to import our model. So we're going to go to File, Import, and we're going to go to our folder and choose Interior Project 06, and we're going to choose Import, Close, and there you go. So this is our Revit model now imported into SketchUp, and you can see that SketchUp did a pretty good job of importing it. You can see the scale is pretty much on par, right? And now we can really use the freedom of a modeling program to add in any finer details that we might want, right? So because this is inside, one of the first things we want to do is we want to go to View or Camera, and we want to go to adjust our field of view. I want to pull that back so that we can have a bit more to look around. Now we're only going to be concentrating on the kitchen area, and what we're going to do is take a look over here, and I want us to take a look on our design board that we had here. And if you notice, we had actually picked out some ideas that we want to execute here in the design board. So one of the first things is that the type of cupboards that Revit has is very plain, and we definitely wanted to use this kind of style. So the advantage of being in SketchUp is that you have SketchUp 3D Warehouse at your fingertips, which is a great resource that we can use. So if you head over to just type 3D Warehouse, and if you look for it in Google, it will be the first thing that pops up. Now you do need to sign in, which it's free, so you can just make an account and sign in. And for example, we might want to look for maybe cabinet doors, maybe so. And we do get a couple of options here, and we basically just want to look for a cabinet door that looks like the style that we would use. Here are a few here, cabinet doors. Now what I'll do, I will just, let me see if this one is okay. I'll just click here, and we can just click download, and then we can actually just drag this directly into our model like that. And we can inspect these cabinet doors. Let me look around here. And they're okay, but not quite the cabinet doors that I would want. So I can just undo that and we can continue looking. So I'm going to hit back. Oh, I can go here. So this is basically the process that we would do. We would try to find cabinet doors. So if we look around, we can see this cabinet door is pretty good. So I'm going to download this one and I'm going to drag this one in. And this is actually looking pretty nice. It has a little bit more detail that you can see here, you know. And this is the thing that will let the renderings look really nice because it has these details. Now you can see that the default cabinet from within Revit doesn't have that much detail.
Right, guys. So the other thing that that you might see happen when you're in SketchUp Warehouse, after every 5 downloads, it will pop up a message and say you have reached your daily download limit. Basically, you just need to watch the first part of an ad to get more downloads. All right. So when it says you've reached the limit, don't think that, oh crap, I can't download anything more for the day. No. You just need to literally, there's an ad, you just play it. It's basically advertising SketchUp and it plays. And as soon as it reaches like halfway, you can just skip it and then you have 5 more downloads. So, of course, you know, Revit is just encouraging us to purchase a subscription. Not Revit, SketchUp is just encouraging us to purchase a subscription. So, you don't have to purchase it. Just know that you have to just skip the ad. But we're all used to this already, right? That's how the world of cell phones work, right? When you download any free app, you know that it's coming with ads, don't it? All right. Okay, let's continue.
For drawings, that's no problem. But if we're going to do a presentation, then we're going to need it to have more details. All right, so if I double click this, I can see that this is one group here, and then this inside part is another group. So we're just gonna merge all of that together. So I'm gonna double click and I'm gonna explode this group. So now everything is one group, and that way I can just adjust this by moving one side like that, and then everything keeps proportional. All right. Lovely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my move tool and I'm just going to move this in place. I'm going to put it about right here. Put it right here. Let me put this here. Then I'm going to rotate this way so it's exactly there. And then I'm going to adjust this. So I'm going to select this side here. Now, if I can't see through this, what I'm going to do is just go to View and go to face style and just change it to X-ray. So now I can see it. I'm going to use M, drag this over to there. I left the piece behind. Let me go again. All right, so I'm going to select everything there and drag this over. And I have some pieces here. I'm going to just, and that should be okay. All right. I'm going to leave that part there because that's inside. All right. Now I'm going to go to View, face style, turn off, View, face style, and I'm going to turn off X-ray. All right. So now I'm going to just replace, I need to carry up the bottom part. Like that. There you go. Then I'm also going to adjust the depth. So here is the back. I'm going to double click and I'm going to push this flush like that. All right. So now all I need to do is to replace the Revit version. So I'm going to copy this and press Ctrl to copy this over. There you go. Then I also have some drawers that's going to be up here. Okay, so now I'm going to move this, copy this, and this is going to be for the drawers. So here. Now what I want to do is I want to make this unique because I'm about to change this height here. So I'm going to change this height. And notice for the draw, now the draw is a bit more slim. So what I'm going to do is I need to make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to use an exact measurement. So I'm going to move this about 30. millimeters, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to move this about 30 millimeters. Same thing for this side, and same thing for this side. All right, then I'm going to move this all the way up. Right, there we go. All right, then I'm going to copy this one over here. Great. Now let's see how that is turning out. So I'm going to go into the group, the IFC group that came from Revit. And what I'm going to do, everything is grouped together. So I'm going to right click and say explode. And I'm going to say explode again because they're grouped multiple times. Explode again. And everything is still grouped. So explode again, explode. So now I'm able to go into each object. So now I'm going to go into this object that's here. And I can delete, oh, well, it's going to delete the cabinet. So I need to go into this and say explode. And now I'm able to delete each cabinet. So now I'm left with this along with the handles.
Also, another point, when you download stuff from, when you export your model as an IFC into SketchUp, IFC will not take everything sometimes. In this case, it took all the cabinets and everything, so that's good. But I believe some items like curtain walls and some types of furniture, for some reason, the IFC doesn't read it. All right, so that is a point for you to note. All right, cool.
And I'm also going to delete the handles as well because we're going to be using our own handles. All right, so we can see that this kitchen here is looking much more detailed. And if we take a look on our design board that's here, you can see that it's looking similar to what we have for our design board for our kitchen. But now, before we go any further, let us put on our door handles to match what we have in our design drawing. Now, what we want to do is we want to use these type of handles, right? So we are gonna look for that, and if we type door handles, should be able to, here we go. So we're going to download this one in. All right, and then we're going to move that into place. So we're going to use the move tool and we're going to just place it there. Now, of course, it's a bit oversized, so let's rotate that 90 degrees, and we're definitely going to scale it down, and I think it comes out too much, so we definitely need to take it inward this side. And now we're going to place these handles on our door. Still a little too big, so we're going to scale that down. There we go. And what we're doing here, we're just kind of eyeballing it a little bit, so we're going to copy this over here. And that's okay, because what we're doing is trying to design this. So we're trying to do a detailed design, and that is based on our design sketch that we have here. So we are using these cabinet door styles, but we want to use this type of handle. Now, as you can realize, Revit would not give you this design flexibility. So this is why we would do this using SketchUp, so that our kitchen can have a should have some nice details for our rendering. And then we're gonna copy that over here. Doesn't matter if it doesn't line up 100% with the center. This is okay. It's kind of a sketch. Now, if this is looking like what we want, then we would want to now select these two here, and we would actually, what we would do is we would cut this, go into this group, and then paste in place. And that way, so let me delete this. So what happens now is that these are exactly the same because we've added this to the group. And then we can mirror this that way, like that. And we can do the same thing here. We're gonna cut this, go into this group, and then go paste back in place. There we go. So now these are grouped. And now we can pretty much duplicate these in different locations. So we have a similar cabinet on this side. So the first thing we're going to do is copy all of these doors. Copy that. Then we are going to, let's flip it. So we're going to use the flip tool there, and then we're going to move it in place right there. There we go. Then we're going to go into this group and we're going to explode it, and then we're going to delete the original doors from. All right, that's looking pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and do the other doors. So we're going to replace this one here. So we're going to copy this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to right click and make this unique, and we're going to move this side in. Now we had to make it unique or else these would have edited over here. Select this here, and then we're going to move this upward. There we go. And we're going to explode this and delete this door. So now we have that. And now we're going to do this, and we're going to do this side here. So we're going to make it that way, and then rotate it, and then move it in place. Great. Now we're going to do the same thing for these guys here, and these are, we're going to move it. Yeah, these are a little bit bigger. So what we can actually do with this one is we're going to make it unique, and then we're going to extend it. Then we're going to mirror this. Or we're going to mirror copy. So we're going to press Control and then we mirror. Actually, we're going to click, hold, and drag this to the center point and then release. And then we have a mirror automatically. Pretty cool. All right. Then actually for here, we're not going to edit this just yet because we're going to edit the sink. And that might change this part. So we're going to leave that for now. We're going to change these ones up here. Copy that, mirror this way, and then mirror it that way. Then I'm going to make it unique. All right. Then we're going to do this one. We're going to rotate this, and we're going to create a rotated copy. There we go here. And then we're going to rotate this, copy. Okay. All right. So let's delete these doors. So we're going to explode this and then delete that and delete that door. And I believe all of this actually rotates. So we are going to make this unique, and we are going to move all of this and do the same thing for this one. Then we're going to remove that. There we go. All right. So that's done. Now for these, we do want to, we could choose to replace these low detail versions, but it would look pretty similar. Let's finish these over here. So what we're going to do is select all of these. We have this one remaining. So we are going to grab these guys here and do one of them, make unique, grab the back of this guy here and push it all the way there. Then what we're going to do is mirror this, copy this upward, like that, and make this unique. All right, that's good. Then we're going to mirror this on the other side. So we're going to mirror copy using the midpoint. There we go. All right, now we can explode this cabinet and delete. There we go. All right, that's looking nice. So we have went through. Hold on, we have to do one more. This guy here, gonna explode that and delete that, and we need to replace that with this version here. So we're going to mirror copy this. All right, that's good. So we can see we have added some interesting details to our kitchen. It's looking much nicer. Okay, so now we need to change out some of the fixtures. So we have a fridge that's here. We have a stove. So let's look up some stoves. Okay, so now we're gonna look for some stoves. And if we type the word stove, we will see a bit here. This looks a little big. This one might look good. So we're gonna download this one, drag that in. There we go. So we're gonna delete this stove and replace it with this one here. It's a bit nicer. All right, good. Now this might be a little shorter, so we're just going to make this a bit taller like that. And what we can do is adjust the feet. Okay, I'm just going to carry this down and then carry up. There we go. All right, so we have our stove in. All right, so let's look at now our sink. And this type of sink is called a farmhouse sink or an apron sink. So let's do a search for that. So we have quite a bit of options here. Let's look for farmhouse sink, see what that gives us. All right, great. All right, so we're gonna download this one, and there we go. Now, so basically what we want to do is we're gonna replace our sink that came with Revit. So we're gonna delete that. So we're gonna delete everything, leaving the doors, and we are gonna try to this into that space. So we're gonna grab this. It may not fit exactly, but it's pretty close. So that is good. That's good. All right. So a couple of things we need to do to fix this in place. So this is actually a pretty nice fit. All right. So let's adjust the base here. So let's hide our doors. All right. So first thing we need to do is adjust this base. So we want to select here and move that there. Then we want to delete these doors. Now I'm deleting it partially because I don't want to accidentally delete the front face. All right, that's good. The colors, okay, so this doesn't come out as much, but I think that's the style of this sink here. So I'm going to unhide, and then I'm going to adjust these doors. And we can always change the color of this when we render. We do need to continue our backsplash. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to double click and grab this and just extrude it. To use my pen tool to cut this. Use my line tool, cut that. Now I'm able to push this out. There we go. All right. Now we have our sink to match our design board that's here. So we're doing pretty well. Now let's continue the backsplash here. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my line tool and then push this. Now we're doing all of these edits here because when we go into our rendering program Twinmotion, it will look even nicer with all of these details. Our microwave didn't come over from Revit, so we're going to do that. We're going to download a microwave and also possibly a fridge. This fridge came from Revit, but I'm pretty sure we can get some nicer refrigerators from Sketchup. So let's take a look. Okay, so if we look for a refrigerator, these are pretty good. Let's download that one. Let's drag that in. All right, great. So we're going to just align this. So I'm going to grab the corner. Oops. There we go. Drop it right there. So we can get rid of the fridge from Revit and move this fridge in like that. And this fridge is a little smaller than we had here. So we could choose if we want to modify this from, we can either change it from within Revit or we can change it here, but we're just going to leave it as is for now. And this fridge is it's a pretty good fit. All right. So now that we have the fridge, we have the stove, we have the sink. So if we look back at our design board, we did have some lamps that we want to have over here. However, we did want a tray ceiling, and the idea was to have the ceiling come all the way to the top of the cabinet. So we didn't put a ceiling from within Revit. So we could choose to do that. We could put the ceiling from within Revit, but because we're here, we're just going to continue with SketchUp and we're going to just put a ceiling. So we're going to draw a rectangle like that. Before I do anything, I'm going to double click this and I'm going to right click and turn it into a component. So that way it doesn't get stuck to any other geometry. And then I'm going to extrude this downward to the surface of here. So like that. And then I'm going to extrude this outward to there. I'm going to use my pencil tool and extrude this. Good. Now I am going to cover everything here, but we're only going to be focused in on this area for our views. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this all the way to here. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to draw a rectangle inside of here and then extrude it this way. And then everything else, I'm gonna cover it up with a rectangle because we do need to cover everything so that light doesn't get in for our render. Carry it all the way over there. Then I'm gonna turn this into a component as well. And I'm gonna extrude it downward. Looks like that's fine. Let's also do this space here. So angle inside here, extrude this outward. All right, so now we have a ceiling. So the idea is that we want to have a tray ceiling in the center. So let us use, I'm going to use my tape tool, which shortcut is T, and I'm going to draw off here. I'm going to put that. I'm going to draw off here and align this like that. And then I'm going to do this one. Make sure that I'm on the axis. All right, so I want to start here. So I'm going to draw off one like this. Create another one like this. Right, so this is a good use of the tape tool. It can help us to align stuff properly. Now we do have to come out some more because this one is here, so we're going to have to come inward. So I'm going to offset this 120 and offset this 120. All right, then I go into this group here and I'm going to draw a rectangle like this. I'm going to push this in 1 foot. Maybe 1 foot is too deep. Let's try 10 inches. There we go. All right, so now we're going to remove these lines. Well, I'm going to keep it and then save just in case I need to come back to that. All right, so now I'm going to delete these. All right, lovely. So now would be a good point to go into Twinmotion to start to set up our lighting. Now, before we go into moving into starting rendering in Twinmotion, I wanted to just take a look at where we're coming from. So on the left is our original Revit model that we have enhanced with details in Sketchup. And this is the original Sketchup model. So you can see that we've added way more details. If I zoom into here versus zooming into here, we can see that let me pull this back. So the typical Revit blocks is not as detailed as when we come into Sketchup and we can add more refinement. And this refinement in Sketchup is going to make the renderings look even better. And it's not just about the renderings. Some of the effects that we wanted to achieve, we could only do that in SketchUp because some of these details are very small, right? So for example, little things like the faucets and the stove, those are not things that it would make sense to model or to get models of in Revit. So by coming into SketchUp, we were able to add additional details.
All right, guys. Okay. So, the gist of this is that when you want to add fine details, don't spend years trying to do it in Revit. All right? You can very easily add additional details because you have the power of the 3D warehouse at your fingertips. You can just go to 3D warehouse and you're able to get all of this these detail objects, and they're easy to add and manipulate. Whereas when you're in Revit, you have to deal with a lot of levels and alignment and rules and that kind of stuff. Any questions from anybody, guys? Hmm? Hmm? Generally, you good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, here's what I want to do, guys. I want to strike a deal with you. All right. What we have left to do after this is stuff in Twinmotion, right? Rendering stuff. Now, in light that you guys have a crit tomorrow, what I would propose to do is I could do the Twinmotion stuff next week, but that would mean that everybody would have to come to class next week, because that is literally the last time, the last opportunity to take care of anything that needs to be done for the module. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we can pull up and then Alright.
What you say?
have the book, like,
Type it, Gavin. Type it, because you're chipping out.
alright.
What do you think, Joel?
That's right.
What do you say? It can work? Okay.
Sir, I think that works better. That works better.
Because here's the thing, guys. The part that we're going to do in Twinmotion, it makes no sense we do it if you're not at that point in your design work, right? You would need to be okay. It would make sense that you have your model up, and then when we're talking about lighting and you can change the light and you see it happening in real time. Right now, you guys are concentrating on having your stuff to present for studio. Most of the stuff that you're presenting is linked to what we just did. Things that you'll have to do in Revit and things that you have to do in Sketchup. So if you guys could promise me that when you come next week, you will have your, well, I assume you will definitely have your, at least your studio, your apartment unit already created and detailed, right? Meaning you created it in Revit, you add in all your furniture and stuff from Revit, and then you took it into SketchUp and add in all of those other details that is easy to add in SketchUp. So for example, when you add a couch in Revit, it's just for representation. When you carry it into SketchUp, you're going to delete that couch and you get the perfect couch that you want using the 3D warehouse, because there are so much options to pick from the 3D warehouse. And that is where you can really detail your Revit model. And the idea is now, next week when you come now, you would have had that detail model ready to jump into Twinmotion. All right, Jadmar, sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right. That would mean next week is going to be all about Twinmotion, because there are two things that we're going to achieve. Three things. We're going to learn how to do rendering and lighting. I mean, we learn interior. We're going to learn how to do interior rendering and lighting, because we did exterior already a couple weeks ago. We're going to learn how to do a 3D floor plan, right? I'm going to show you how to do that next week. And finally, we're going to learn how to animate in Twinmotion, which is really simple, guys. Like, it's dirt simple. All right, that can be taught in like 5 minutes, 5 seconds. So we're going to tackle all the Twinmotion things next week. So what that means is that we won't have our lecture session today, right? You guys can just use that session to work on your design studio. All right, what do you say? Sound like a good deal?
Yes, sir. Also the Twinmotion, well, the 2024 is not working, but I don't know, something wrong with the 2020.
Yeah, you said the 2024 is working,
Yeah, it is working. It's working.
but not the 25. It's still giving you that weird error.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. Cause what we're doing, anything from 22 all the way up is fine.
So actually,
Sir, what I realized when I searched it up, it said that it's not compatible. So 2025 is not compatible with 2025 Twinmotion, but 2026 Revit is compatible with 2025 Twinmotion. It's weird.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's not compatible. What it means is the feature where you have the synchronization. So for example, for you to just go into Revit and click send to Twinmotion, that feature is not compatible with a newer Twinmotion. But it doesn't mean that Twinmotion is not compatible with Revit. It's just the built-in feature. And that's simply because when Revit 2024 came out, then Twinmotion came out with 2025. So Revit 2024 is looking for Twinmotion 2024 and it don't find it. So it's like it's saying, oh, it doesn't exist. But you can still open 2025 and just link it with a datasmith file. Just like what we did in our exterior. Remember we did that in our exterior tutorial. All right. Now this time around is going to be a little different because we're not going for our interior. We're not going straight from Sketchup. Sorry, we're not going straight from Revit into Twinmotion, right? If we go from Revit into Twinmotion, look at these two pictures that I'm showing you on screen. On the right-hand side is our Revit model. And if we carry that into Twinmotion, everything is going to look just blah and flat. Like look at the cupboards, look at the sink. On the left-hand side, this is details that we added in Revit. So we're going to be linking, sorry, these are details we added in SketchUp, right? So we're going to be linking SketchUp to Twinmotion, right? For our interior. And that is a good practice that you guys should use going forward because exteriors you don't really dive down in the nitty-gritty details for an exterior. But for interiors, you're going all the way down to doorknobs, door hinges, all of these little tiny details which you can't really bring out in the Revit application. So which is why we're not going to be linking straight from Twinmotion to Revit anyway. All right. So next week when you come, everybody should have their studio model in SketchUp. And they should have added some details to your model, adding your furniture, your ceiling, everything. You should have added all of that into your studio apartment model using SketchUp. And then we're going to be using SketchUp and Twinmotion next week. All right. Okay. Now there's one more thing that's going to be on the checklist for next week. Because next week is our last class, it is the last checklist for submissions. So when you come next week, all the work will be marked up to the date and everybody needs to check their grades to make sure there are no errors, maybe an ID number not correct, I don't know, whatever errors that may pop up. Suppose you're not seeing your name on the list. All of those errors, all of those scenarios we need to deal with next week because you're not going to see me again. After next week, I'm just going to be inserting the grades into your portal and that's it. So next week is our last check mark for you to verify that the information I have for you is correct. All right. Most of your work has been marked already. By the way, I just want to say, generally, I think this class, it has given me the best models overall for their major project. I see some of you trying to push the limits of architecture, not just sticking to a box. Some of you venture out and doing all kinds of interesting designs in Revit, which can be tricky because Revit is a little bit stiff at times. So it's good that you push the limits, right? And I think this year, most of you, I think, push the limits compared to the other years when everybody just did a box with a roof. Most of you are giving me some fancy architecturing. And that's great because next semester, we will be pushing the limits of Revit. So you're getting some good practice. All right. Enough of me talking. I'm going to let you guys go, and good luck on your crit tomorrow. Remember, there will be no lecture session, right? You guys can just use the time.
No lecture session.
Right. No lecture session. Just come. Just come to class next week prepared. That's the deal, you know, guys.
Oh.
I give you something, and you give me something. I'm giving you time, and you guys are giving me a guarantee that you're going to come next week with your model ready to go into Twinmotion. All right, Chambers, sound like a good deal? Chambers? Senior? Sound like a good deal, Senior?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Good luck in your critique. If there are no more questions, I will see you next week. Bye.